Good afternoon, everyone. Now, I don't know where you're located, if you're in Australia or Singapore, but I'm so glad that you have joined this webinar on quickly mobilize your workforce for remote work using Microsoft Teams. Now, I have friends in Australia, and I know that you are also affected about what's going on, in the rest of the world. My name is Ulrika Hedlund, and I work for Storyals. And I'm so delighted that we will be doing this webinar today with our good partner, Evergreen, and David Clelland, based out of Australia. So let me switch over to my presentation. So what will you get out of attending this event? Well, first of all, I think that a lot of you, just like us, are trying to find new ways of working remotely. You're used to, being in an office. Right now, I'm sitting here all alone. My colleagues are at home or working from different places. And I think this is the situation for a lot of people around the world today. Now, Microsoft Teams and Office 365 is a great solution that really enables you to work from anywhere, although it has definitely been accelerated by the events of what's going on in the world today. So I've been working with these tools for about 20 years. And so what I wanted to do today was to share a bit of my experience about using these tools and primarily using Microsoft Teams in order to work remotely. I also want to give you some quick tips and guidance, just some of my favorite things that I tend to use more and more in Teams now that we're not located in the same place. So some tips and tricks. The other thing is it's not just about your closest team. If you are a company owner or if you are part of looking after knowledge development and talent development in your organization, it's also super important that you look at how do we get our staff, how do we get our people trained on how to use these things? And I think what's very different is that it's not just about, knowing the features and the functions. Microsoft Teams and how it can be used totally transforms the way that you work. So you really, it's not just about learning the tools, it's really understanding how you're changing your work. Also, we wanted, of course, you to for those that don't already know Evergreen and David, we wanted you to get to know him as well. So let me just pause there for a minute and let me introduce you also to, tell you what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm sitting here, like I said, all alone, but I have my team with me. We have Michael in Denmark. We have Midun also sitting here in Dubai, and we have David out of Australia. So we're located in different parts of the world. You that is attending, you have a questions and answers bar in the right. So since there are a lot of people attending, we can't all see each other. So I don't actually see you, which is a bit sad. But what you can do is that you can post questions. Now, the questions will not be visible to everyone right away. We will see them as the organizers, and then my colleagues can share them with me. Now, knowing from previous webinars, sometimes it is quite hard to, stop what you're doing and to take all of those questions. But we're really going to do our best to stop once in a while, and I'm going to ask my colleague Mitun if any questions have come on in, and then we will stop in the presentation, because the difference between attending a webinar and a recorded event is that this is live. And so, of course, we want to hear from you. And we will also be doing we're going to ask you to engage a little bit as well, so that we get to know a little bit more about you. Now, I'm going to ask Midun quickly. Now I'm only sharing my presentation, right? And the video. Is everything looking okay?
Yes, now everything looks okay.
Perfect. Okay, so let me share a little bit more about myself. So my name is Ulrika Hedlund, and I am the founder of Storyals. Storyals, when my mom asked me what Storyals is, I typically say that, well, you can think of it as Netflix, but for companies. And Netflix, not, not, for them to, watch movies at work, but really to watch stories to show them how they can work smarter. Because I think today in the world that we live in, people get easily bored and they want to be entertained. So this is what we do. We create story-based tutorials that show in real life how we can use these tools. And the idea is really to, inspire and motivate and educate. Before I founded Storyals and was a productivity consultant, I worked for Microsoft for many years. And I am Swedish, so I started working in Microsoft Sweden. But then I spent the past 14 years living in the Middle East. So I am based in Dubai. And really, really, I'm passionate about storytelling and passionate about sharing everything that we do. So again, Storyals is about inspiring and motivating and educating people. I also have a little bit more about our partner. Most of you probably already know David. I met David 2 years ago. And such a loving person and really also loves to share and help others. So David Clelland, for those of you who haven't met him, he is the founder of Evergreen Digital and also the managing director of eLearning Force. So for those of you who don't know, eLearning Force, it's the company behind the learning management system, LMS 365, which is a integrated into Office 365, a learning solution that really can help you to assign learning and to get your workforce trained on various different topics. Yes, he's also very passionate about modern digital workplaces and looking at different tools that you can use because as you all know, it's not also just Microsoft tools that you use. You need to use number of different tools, and it's really about you as the needs that you have and really to find the best outcome. And so really, really happy to be doing this webinar together with David and his team who are behind the scenes here also. We also want to know a little bit about you, but like I said, there are so many people attending this webinar and we can't use the questions and answers for that. So what we were going to do is that we're going to share a form. In this form, I'm going to ask you to respond to a few questions. So first, I'm going to give you the link to the form or the code, but first I wanted to go through the questions. So first, what country are you based in? So again, this webinar was for those of you who are located not in our part of the world, but in Australia, Singapore, and Asia. So we'd like to know where you are located. We'd also like to know which department you work in. We work a lot with IT, but also with HR because it's really about building those digital muscles and it's really about changing behavior of your entire workforce. The other thing, especially with what's going on in the world today and what this seminar is all about, does your company encourage or even demand that you work from home? And the final question, the fourth question, is really about your usage of Teams and if you've already started using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a QR code with you. And for those of you who haven't done that yet, let me just first say that you take up your mobile device and you just open up the camera app. So you can do that now if you have your phone close nearby. You just open up the camera app and then you place your phone in front of this QR code. So you just place it on top like this, and then your phone should find the web link for this form. And here you will see a quick form that you can fill in on your phone. So why don't we fill out this form? We'll give them a few minutes and then we'll let David say a few words. And I can go into the Q&A and I'll make an announcement and I'll just paste in the link here. It's not a nice link, but that's the link for the form. So why don't we do this, Mithun? Because I see that a lot of people have already answered the form. And so why don't we switch over to David so he can say a few words. David, I've already introduced you, but you might want to say a few words yourself. So Mithun, can you switch over to David?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Ulrika. Technology is great, isn't it? I love it. A little hiccup, but I'm in now. And thanks everyone for coming along. I'm David Clelland, founder of Evergreen Digital, a digital workplace consultancy. I'm also the managing director of eLearning Force, who is the office for LMS 365 in the APAC region. I'd like to call myself a remote working evangelist. I've worked with Microsoft Teams since it went into preview the first couple of days, and it's the backbone of our business. So I'm really pleased that Ulrika was able to do this webinar for us. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Okay, so let's look at the responses here. I'm going to refresh this again. Now, again, this is one of the cool tools that you can use within Office 365. It's called Microsoft Forms. And here we can then see, you know, where you're from. So we have Australia, we have New Zealand, we have Singapore. If we look at, you know, where those of you who are attending this webinar, where you're what department you work in, we have a nice mix here. We have from HR and IT, we have sales, executive leadership, professional service. Yeah, basically we have people attending from various different departments, which is great. Are you encouraged or demanded to work from home? Yes, everyone. The majority are saying yes, those who can, but still some that you know can still go to the office. If we look at how you would describe your Microsoft Teams usage, the majority of you are saying that a few people have started using it. And I think that's one of the things with these tools today, right? That you, without any, you know, formal training, people still find them and they start using them. And that's great. However, in order to really have that transformation within your organization, then really, you know, people need to be introduced and they need to understand how these tools work. Some of you just use it for chat and meetings, and this is quite interesting. And we'll talk more about that in the presentation because there's so much that you can do in Teams, right? But some people just, you know, take the, you know, what they've been doing previously in the Skype for Business. So thank you so much for sharing that. I might just show you since I'm anyway showing my screen here. So again, what we're using here is something called Microsoft Forms. It's available in Office 365. And what you can do then is that you can build these questions. And when you want to share it, you can do like I did. You can share this QR code and you can copy it into a presentation. You can also get the link just like I did here and share it in the chat. So it is a good way to really to, you know, share and collect visually information with other people. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. Why are we talking about Teams? If we talk about, you know, remote working and working from anywhere, there's so many tools that we can use. There's definitely not a lack of tools. So for online meetings, you can be using, you know, Skype for Business or the consumer version of Skype. Join me, go to meeting. There's so many different tools that you can use. I don't know about you, but I have 3 kids and they're being homeschooled at the moment, and they use Zoom, all of their teachers. So they're having all of their classes on Zoom. Works okay for the older ones. The 5-year-old, not really easy to get him to sit in front of an iPad and see his teacher there. But anyway, it is a technology that can be used. We have different tools for voice and for chat. If you look at file sharing, you can use OneDrive and SharePoint. You can use Dropbox. We also have tools for content production and for scheduling, Outlook, Planner, and you have all these different apps. And then you have various applications for being social within your organization and also with other businesses. So it's not that it's a lack of online tools. It is that it is really, really messy for users. When do they use what? And how can they trust that the information that they need is gathered in one place? So when we look at this picture, and when you introduce something like Teams, your coworkers might say like, why Teams? Like one more tool. Is that really what we need? And the way that I like to position it, and the way that I think that you can also share it with your coworkers, is that Teams really brings all of this together. And the way that Microsoft names it, they say that it's a hub for teamwork. And I'd like to add and say that it really is a modern hub. This is something that I feel that is really, really changing. So in Storyals, I have coworkers that are, 50. Almost now. We have coworkers that are 22, and I can see that the way that these, people work is extremely different. Our 22-year-old, she comes in and she spreads, emojis and hearts and coffee cups, all over. But this is, a change in how people work. But Teams enables you to do all of that. And if we look at the transition that Microsoft is doing, I think that most of you know, maybe you don't, but Skype for Business is being discontinued, and Teams is Microsoft's primary app for communication and collaboration. So all of the functionality that you've previously had in Skype for Business, with online meetings, with chat, voice, video calls, all of that is now fully integrated into Teams instead. Some organizations might still be using both, and some organizations have switched totally to Teams. And there are, those that have an on-premise version of Skype for Business and those that are using the online version of Skype for Business. And there are different timings as where Microsoft will stop supporting these solutions. But whenever in time you're going to do it, you're going to need to move off of Skype for Business and do it to Teams. And something that we've seen that's going on in a lot of organizations is that this, what's going around in the world today, where people are going to have to work from home, this really accelerates the adoption of Teams. So as an organization, it's good to be, one step ahead and really to help your users in that. Now, Teams is so much more than what you had before in Skype for Business. So what Teams does, it also brings together file sharing. So some users before might have thought that it was a bit confusing. When do I use OneDrive for Business and when do I use SharePoint? Well, what Teams does, it hides that complexity to the user. So if you're sending a file, attachment in a one-to-one chat, well, you're actually using OneDrive for Business behind the scenes. If you set up a collaborative team in Teams, you're actually setting up a SharePoint document library and you're sharing documents there. Teams in itself doesn't have any file storage. Teams uses the services, either the ones in Office 365, like SharePoint and OneDrive, or you can connect to third-party file storage. So sometimes when I hear, people saying that, oh, it's not in SharePoint, it's in Teams, then I have to come and say that, well, actually it is in SharePoint. It's just that you're seeing it through Teams. It also brings all of the other tools in Office 365. So for instance, forms that I showed you, you can do a quick poll within Teams using forms. You can watch videos from Stream in Teams. You can use Planner. You can use all of these amazing tools that Office 365 has to offer, but within Teams, and that makes it easier for users to find these tools. But it's not just the Microsoft stack, so it's not just Office 365. What you can also do with Teams is that you can plug in all of these different apps, third-party apps, well, I should remove the Twitter icon actually, because Microsoft removed that connector. So as a note to me, I need to remove that one. But there are so many third-party apps that you can add to Teams so that you can use these apps and you can connect with the outside world. So going back to the question, is it really the right time now to start using Teams? And I would say that yes, it is, because like I said, whether or not you want to, Microsoft is gonna, you're gonna go that way. And there are so many benefits that you would get. I did this webinar one time before, and there was a comment from a person saying that, why are you like promoting Teams? Are you selling Teams? So I think I need to make that clear. I do not work for Microsoft. I could openly here talk about any product at all. The thing is that we use Teams heavily ourselves, and this is what I, as a coach, this is what I coach on. So I just wanted to, tell. It's not about selling Teams; it's about selling the benefits of what you get out of it in the workforce. So like I said, first of all, it simplifies everything because you get one single app that you can do all of these from. So again, if you want to do chat, if you want to collaborate, if you want to do social. So on the left-hand side here, you switch between your chat and your different teams and your calendar. The calendar is the same, has the same contents as your Outlook calendar because it's all integrated. If you book a meeting in Teams, you will see it in your Outlook calendar. If you book something in your Outlook calendar, you will see it in Teams. You have your files and on your file sharing. And like I said, you can also add third-party apps. So David and I have already spoken about LMS 365, which is a learning management system. So if you use that, you can use that from within Teams. And just with a click here in Teams, users can access all of their learning and do the training from within Teams. So this is also something that we use a lot when we're training, training people on Teams, that they get all of their training, the on-demand training, and as well as the live training, they get it all through Teams. Do we have any questions on this kind of one app for collaboration? I'll just do a pause and I'll open it up there and see if we have. I'll go quickly to the Q&A. Let me see if there's something. So please, I'm going to check the Q&A now. So if you have a specific question, please. No, it looks like we are good. Okay, great. Another thing that is really, beneficial right now is that you can very easily get on meetings like this. So this meeting that we're doing now, this is a live event. I know that at this event, we aren't thousands of people, but we could be. You could be up to thousands and thousands of people in these webinars. You can also very easy get on a one-to-one video meeting. I do this with my, my coworkers, and then it doesn't have to be as formal as sitting down, in front of your computer. You could do it on your iPad, on your phone. You could grab a coffee, and go and have that, informal event or informal chat, just like as if you were sitting next to each other. True, you will never have the same social engagement like you do when you're meeting in real life. But I really believe that this is something that's changing. Again, I have 3 kids, 9 years old, 7 years old, and 5 years old. You should see them, the way that they engage with each other on video. They have no problem at all. Just, recording whatever they're doing. And they don't care if they make mistakes. So for them, having video on is just so natural. So I think this is also something that we're going to see changing moving forward. Like I said, you can also schedule a meeting. And this is the point that I want to make. You can invite anyone to a Teams meeting. So the receiver of the meeting doesn't have to have Teams. They can just join through a browser. So I actually do Teams meeting with my mother because sometimes she needs help. And so she can share her screen and I can request control and then I can click on her screen and I can help her. And, she's in Sweden and I'm in the United Arab Emirates, but it really is so nice that we can, be on video and then I can help her. You can invite anyone to a Teams meeting. If you want to set up a live meeting like this, you also do it through Teams. I have to say, though, that you have to have a specific license. So I think it's the E3. if I'm not wrong, E3 or E5 license in order to produce these types of events, but I'll have to get back on that because I'm not 100% sure. And it also has to be, you know, your administrator has to enable you. So you don't want, you know, everyone in your organization to be doing these live events because it is a bit of a production and there are some limitations into how many you can do and things like that. But having a normal Teams meeting, that's no problem at all. And you can be up to 250 people in a normal Teams online meeting. So that should definitely be sufficient for most people. Again, you can book a Teams meeting through the Teams calendar and schedule that. You can also do it through Outlook. So if you have enabled the little Teams plugin in Outlook, you can also book a meeting through Outlook. And that's normally what I do. I book my meetings, my Teams meetings through Outlook, but I join them through the calendar here because it's just easier to get on a Teams meeting directly from the Teams calendar. So that's one. It's easier to meet online. The other one is that you can communicate so much more effectively using Teams. So if you think about all the different tools that we use today, you know, text messages and WhatsApp and email and all of that, with Teams, you get all of your ways of communicating into one single app, right? So for instance, if you want to send a quick message that you want to make sure that everyone receives, you can do that in a chat or in a group chat. So I usually say that chat messages should be something that's a bit, you know, time sensitive. It's a bit urgent. Like you want the other person to see it and respond quickly. So just the other week, we were going to go for a photo shoot, a couple of us in the office, but the photo shoot was canceled. So this was the night before, and we were going to meet the next morning for the photo shoot. So I just did a quick group chat, and I just sent out, you know, the message to everyone. And this was, you know, at 6 p.m. in the evening, so I didn't want to call people. I didn't want to bother them, but I could just check by looking at the reactions. That everyone had acknowledged that message. So it's a way of, you know, communicating. You don't have to write with words. By just doing a thumbs up or just using the expressions, you can, you know, communicate very quickly and very fast. Another thing that I think is great, especially that now that we're working, you know, from home or working remotely, is that you can communicate your availability using your presence. So this is something that you also had in Skype for Business, right? So you have your status. So if you're green, you're available. If you set your status to orange, or if you're away, it will be, you know, orange, and people will see that you're not currently there. If you're red, then it means that you're busy. You will still get notifications and you will still get messages, but people can see that you're busy, so they might not, you know, interrupt you if it's not super urgent. They might find, you know, post it in a channel or something instead. And then you have do not disturb. The do not disturb you should really use when you want to have focused time and you don't want to be disturbed. So this is something, because if you've put your status to do not disturb, all calls that come through Teams or all messages will be reverted to your activity feed instead, so that you don't get these, you know, pop-up banners on your screen. So that's very important if you want to have focused time. The other thing that I warmly recommend is that you set this little status message. You can set a status message, so if someone hovers over your profile picture, they can see this little note. So for instance, here I put, you know, I'm working from home today. I'm available for meetings, calls between 2 and 4 p.m. Now, the good thing with these messages is that, you know, you put them up there and then you might forget that, you know, you put it there. But the nice thing is that you have this automatic clear status message after. So you could put that it automatically clears after today, or that it clears after, you know, 1 hour or 2 hours. So it's a really good way to, you know, communicating your availability to others. Something that was recently introduced in Teams, and it's also a way of communicating more effectively, but it has to do with using Teams in Teams. So I think what I will do is I will actually get back to that later, and I will go back to the slide and talk about that once we've discussed the Teams aspects in Teams. So the final thing, and this is really the big win, in my opinion, using Teams, is that you can create these digital replicas. It's called Teams, and this is where it gets so confusing. You can create teams in Microsoft Teams, and these teams are like virtual or digital replicas of your work group. And you can of course have different types of teams. So let me give you an example. In our organization, we have different teams. So we have one for the whole company. So that's where everyone is involved. We have one for the Dubai office. That's another one. So you can think of each of these teams as a house or physical, office building where you invite people to join. So in a team, in Microsoft Teams, you invite people to join. And by default, all of the people that are invited to a team get access to everything that's shared in that team. Conversations, documents, everything that you're sharing in that team is available. So it really is about having a digital place where you share your information. Now, here I gave you an example of organizational teams, but of course, these can be more functional teams also, or project-based teams. Say that you're working on a customer project. Well, then you set up a team for that project. Now, one thing is setting up the team. The team is more about the people and who is going to be in the team. Each team then also has channels. And when you first create a team, it only has one channel. It's called General, and that's you can't change the name of it. That's what it's called. So you can think of this, if you have your, your house, this is your one single room. This is your living room. You just have one. That's the General. And this is where everyone is, and this is where everyone talks, and this is where everyone hears what's going on. But after you start working, you're going to find that different constellations of people will start focusing on different things. So this is when you break out and you start creating different channels. So I typically, compare these channels to different rooms within your house. So you have these different rooms, people can break in and break out, and they can talk about different things. Note that everyone in the team can still see what's going on in all of these different channels if they choose to. So they could go into a channel and they can read what's going on, but they might not necessarily want to get notifications for everything if you're not that involved. But this really creates more of a transparent dialogue because let me give you an example. So I'm working, in one of our channels, which is, for media production. So we're working on the different videos. Now, Michael, my colleague, might have a question on what's the process of this video. He doesn't want to go on the day-to-day, but then he can go into this channel, he can see the discussion, and he can see, oh, okay, this is the status I can see. So it's like information becomes visible and transparent, and it's on a need-to-know basis. So it's up to you as an individual to go in and to find and filter that information. But this is a change in culture, because before, people were used to getting an email. Send me an email, tell me what I need to know. But in Teams, it's not like that. You have all of this information, and it's up to the end user to filter and to find what they want to tune into and what they want to listen to. And this is a huge change in culture. Now, when Teams was first introduced, you could only have these, open channels or these open doors where everyone could join. But that wasn't very convenient. Let me give you an example. So say that you have this, you have a sales team and you have all of the salespeople. And then you, two of the managers want to discuss, a change in compensation or a change in bonus. This is sensitive information that not everyone should see. So before, what would happen is that then maybe the two sales managers users would create a new team just so that they could discuss this topic, which didn't really make sense because you don't need a new team, like a new house, just to discuss those things. So in November, Microsoft introduced something that was really a lot of people were asking for. And this is the ability to create a private channel. And the way that I normally describe this is that if you think of the analogy of the house, you have a door but with a key, and you can actually lock this door. And not only can you lock the door, it's invisible. So someone that's not part of this channel doesn't even know that it exists. So this is a way to have a better structure in your teams because you can create certain channels for just a few individuals in a team. Okay, you say, this sounds great. Let's do it. Yes, and that's often what, we have these, IT guys, they think, this is so great. Let's just roll out the Teams app to everyone and let's just start using Teams day one. What happens? Well, people, without any introduction or without any, kind of guidance, people they don't know what to do and they start using it and they are not more productive. Again, I've been working with this for quite some time and I've heard so many things. These are just a few of them. It's total chaos. There are teams and channels created all over the place. I have pop-up notifications coming in left, right, and center. I cannot focus. I am not any more productive. Quite the contrary. I am too old for Teams. I don't know what these emojis mean. I sent a heart to someone. She got offended. There are so many things in terms of the culture and about using these things. So again, I wouldn't recommend it. What would I recommend? Well, first of all, since using Microsoft Teams and using this for your communication, it's something that impacts your entire company, right? So gather your stakeholders. Make sure that you get representatives from all the different departments. This is something that involves everyone. What I normally say is that, well, why don't you start using Teams for that group? And why don't you start a team that is your kind of digital workplace gym where you build your digital muscles? And, set up a team for it. And in this team, you can also then do a private channel for your stakeholders. We call it the gym management because this is where we can discuss different things. You might want to do an assessment to see, okay, where are we now? What's the current state? How are we using these tools and how far have we come? And then, start building an adoption plan. And again, this is something that we and Evergreen as adoption partners, we can also help you, on this plan. So start, looking at a plan. How can you, plan this out? The other thing that I have to say is that many IT projects, you get money for the software and you buy the hardware, but then there's no money left over for training. And in my opinion, this is totally, I shouldn't say, I'm going to say it's stupid, because why do you invest in all of this if your users don't know how to use it? It's totally wasted. So really make sure that you reallocate some of them. And maybe you have events that have been canceled. Maybe you have things. I know that right now it's about, keeping your job and it's about not closing down your business. I know that and I understand that. But with that said, find resources to help your users get trained. The other thing, again, is that don't forget, governance around this. So, who can create teams? If you're a small organization, it might be fine. Like you might just leave it open and everyone can create a team. It's fine. But if you are a very, very large organization, you want to have some structure. Then, you really want to make sure that you have some type of governance in place. Now, you can do a lot yourself. If you're technically savvy, you can create, forms like the one I showed you. You can put a flow for, how to create these teams, or there are a lot of great solutions that you can use. So I also know that Evergreen work with a software called Powell software. So they have something coming out which is called Powell for Teams, which is a way to help organizations get some structure. So you can have a naming policy. Users can easier see, okay, this is the marketing teams, these are the sales teams. So basically getting a better structure of your organizational tree within teams. How long should teams be active? Is it a 6 months? Should they be deleted afterwards? How do you commute? All of these things is something that you need to look at in terms of your plan. Leveraging champions is absolutely fantastic. You will always have some people that are your go-to people, and make sure to identify them, reward them, give them extra incentives. And it doesn't have to be something super flattering. It could be, something like dinner for two, or, maybe not these days either, but, it could be a digital recognition as well. I know at Microsoft, they did these profile pictures, that you have in Teams. And it was just like a little banner with a little C that stood for champion. And people could have that on their profile picture, because then everyone else could see that they were champions. So definitely, a way to recognize that investment. Also, give users access to digital training. I would always say, in these times or not, that digital training is the most effective, because you can get it, users get it when they want it. You can have, world leading experts delivering the training. And since these tools change so often, you need the training also to update. So, of course, this is where, I would say that, leverage Storyals, because this is what we do. We do this digital training. So this was a quick overview of the kind of the recommendations. If you want to see it more written, we also have the blog post on the same topic on our website. So here you can also read a little bit more about what I've discussed now. So again, just in short, what we can provide as Storyals is that we have a full adoption and digital learning package, not just on Microsoft Teams, but on all of these tools in Office 365, integrated with LMS 365, so that you can assign these topics to your users. They can get quizzes, they can get certificates, and David knows all about that, and he can show you more, and we'd also be happy to set up a demo anytime. So with that, I'm gonna stop presenting, and I'm going to see if we have any questions from the audience. And let's see, David, you and I might have to share some of this. Okay. Someone thinks it's very cool with a QR code. That's great. Are you able to show an example of e-learning training through Teams? Absolutely. Let me do that. Is LMS 365 free? And how is the content managed? Great question. Let me do that also. Are you using Teams live events for this? Yes, we are. What is the limit for gathering so you can see people on the screen? Oh, Maggie from New Zealand, this is a great question. I see that Midun has already answered that. Yes. So 250 people to join a meeting. you can only see 4 video streams other than your own at the same time. And I know that this is a limitation, especially, you know, for classrooms or for big, you know, board meetings when you want to be able to see more people. Now, I got a message from the Microsoft user voice this morning that Microsoft are working faster on this. They had already announced a 3x3 video screen, but it might be that they're, you know, upping that because they're also seeing what's going on in the world, that you want to be able to see more people at once in the video feed. So great question. Okay, and thanks, Midhun, for also responding to that. So, okay, let me show you a little bit then how the LMS in Teams could work. So let me just give me a second, and I will bring up my demo account. I hope that you're seeing my screen now. So the way that LMS 365 works, and as a Storyals, we're just a content partner for LMS 365. So at the back end here, it is LMS 365. So it is integrated within SharePoint and Teams. So here, you know, we've just put the stores. This could be anything, right? It could be learning dash, it could be called your learning portal. It could be your learning hub. It could be, you know, whatever it is. But if you're looking specifically for Office 365, then we provide content, you know, to drive adoption of that. So then you can have a course catalog with just the Storyals content that we keep up to date. In LMS 365, you can assign topics to learners, which is great because then people can see their current training. So they can see when it's due and they can, you know, play the training, and you can put a due date. That's great as an organization that you can put these due dates. But you can also use the LMS 365 plugin within Teams. So the same training dashboard that you saw in SharePoint, you can then also see within Teams. Let me see if it logs in here. Yeah, here we go. Ooh, he had a lot. So here I can see, oops, the ones that I currently have in progress, and I can play it directly from here. So let's see if this, I won't be able to share this audio now, but then I can see the training here and I can just play it. And then the training itself opens up in Teams. So hold on. As a user, I never have to leave Teams to access the actual training. So I'm not going to play the video here, but you can understand. You play the video and then you have some questions, some quizzes, and then at the end. So the topics that we have are quite short. It's a course about 20 to 30 minutes, and then you get a certificate. So, you know, there's one for kind of understanding, you know, Office in general, and then there are, you know, specific topics for using different aspects of Teams, for instance. So this is one course. Work smarter with documents, etc. Now, so that's one. Another cool thing that you can do with the LMS 365 bot is that you can more easily, you know, share the courses right from within your conversations. So say, for instance, that you wanted to say like this, really cool training, check it out. And then you just search here, you go to the little bot here, and then enhance teamwork, and you can search the course catalog. And this one. And then you just share that. So then people can just click view course and it opens up directly from within Teams. So this way, using LMS 365, you make the content more, you know, more accessible, and there's also, you can access it from your mobile as well. So you can access all of that training from the mobile as well. So LMS 365 is not free. It is a license. And also, like I said, you can include Storyals as part of that to have that up to date. And that is, it's a subscription, so we keep the content up to date. And the way that it happens is that it's the videos are actually done through embed code, and then there's an API to the LMS 365, so we can, you know, automatically populate it with all of the course content. Great question. Let's see, do we have any other? What are the 3 most useful integrations you recommend? Is that, Tom, are you thinking about Teams primarily? Because if it is, then I would say the integrations that we use, one of course, the one that you saw, LMS 365. So we use LMS 365 internally for all of our training. So having that as part of Teams, I think, is brilliant. We also use Dynamics. So the sales team here, we've linked Dynamics so that we can see, our accounts, our opportunities. And then I would say other things, if you're working with, either third-party like apps for like support or chats. So for instance, say that you have a chat on your website, and then you could have those chats come into Teams as well, into that flow. So, that really depends on your line of business, and different teams will have different connectors and different apps that they use. Great question. Okay, let's then do, David, did you want to say a few words as an ending, or should we just go to the last QR slide with the form?
Terrific. I'd like to say a few words. I'd like to thank you, Ulrika. Thank you for sharing your experiences with Microsoft and Teams, Storyals, and LMS 365. Also, thank you for mentioning our PAL Teams. Really exciting product. I'd like to talk to anyone that wants to hear about Teams for governance and also for team templates. So if you'd like to contact me after this, I think there's a QR code coming up. You can contact me through LinkedIn, and we'll also be sending out a live recording of this session over the next day or so. So thank you very much for presenting today.
Thank you so much, David. Okay. Let's see now. I hope that you're all seeing this QR code again. Thank you so much for attending. Again, we have recorded this, but we are going to brush it up a little bit, and then it will be shared with you via email. Thank you so much for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.